Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Welsh, and I am here today with Payroll for Construction. I want to start off by thanking everybody for attending the webinar today on Go Live in 25, which means, start using a payroll service in 2025. And that way we can do the payroll for you all year long. Today is a listen-only broadcast, so if anybody hasn't used GoToWebinar before, there's a spot you can type in questions. Some of them I may answer right as we're going along if they fit right into kind of where we're at. Others I may wait till the end. But either way, before we're done today, if anybody has questions, they can type them in the chat, and also they can, or in the question section. And I'll also provide all my contact information. So if after this anybody, wants to connect one-on-one, we can. These are kind of high level, not really tailored specific to the company because, of course, can't kind of just talk one-on-one. But that's where after this, if anybody wants more of a tailored one-on-one demonstration that dives a bit deeper into, how this could specifically work and help you, you can just reach out to me. So let's just start with a quick introduction on Payroll for Construction. So Payroll for Construction is an online payroll service provider that just focuses on the construction industry. So things like paying your employees via check or direct deposit, paying city, state, federal taxes, doing garnishments, unemployment, W-2s. That is the 10,000-foot overview on what a payroll service does, and we handle all of those as we call them traditional items. What makes us different is what we'll get into here today in just a few minutes. We do this in all 50 states, so I know we have people attending, and again, can't tell what state you're in, but whether you work in one state or multiple states, or you have employees or offices in different states, anywhere in the United States, we do a great job of handling payroll. Even if employees are crossing into different states, we can control what state needs to be paid based on the job. So, as you start to expand and get into more states, that's oftentimes where people start to look to outsource the payroll because, keeping up with all the ever-changing laws of one state is tough enough itself, but you start throwing in other states, that's where things can get, really dicey there, and we do a good job in all 50 states. Where we become different, which you'll see in a few minutes when I actually go to the online payroll system platform, is that we have another company called Foundation Software, which is a full job cost accounting ERP system. Don't worry, nobody has to switch from QuickBooks or whatever they're using for accounting. This will work with virtually any other construction accounting system out there. We would be more like an ADP or Paychex provider that would pay employees and taxes upon many other things, and then we would be able to integrate with your current accounting system. Okay. Now, where we become very specific is really just being able to control things by job. So whether you're union or non-union, whether you work in one state or multiple states or different cities, depending on what state you're in, we can control this stuff by job. So we can automate your prevailing wage rates based on where they're working and what they're doing based on the job level. The fringe calculations, be it for the union or prevailing wage fringes, whether you're paying it to the employee in their paycheck or need to pay it to the union, we'll get into that here in a few minutes where we can help keep all that tracking going and provide very detailed reports for you. So with construction payroll, sure, paying employees and taxes is very important, and it is a part of the payroll process. But as we talk to many contractors, that is just the beginning of it, right? Getting that part done sometimes is not the biggest pain of this payroll. So it's the compliance reporting on the back end. So as you start venturing into union or prevailing wage, Davis-Bacon, certified payroll, call it what you may, you now start to have a lot of reports that need to be done on a weekly or monthly basis that are heavily tied to your payroll. Here today, we'll get into how we can help with that no matter where you're at in the country. The other thing with outsourcing payroll that people really fear is losing job costing. And it's a real fear, and it should be, because in construction, you're running profit and loss reports per job. If you are going to trade off that, you lose visibility of your business completely, and you just can't have it. So I'll be able to show you here today how we can track not just the labor, hours times the rate of pay for the employee, but also your employer expenses, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workers' compensation, union prevailing wage fringes, or health insurance payments that you pay on behalf of the employee, or 401k matches. I'll show you a real nice report here that proves we can track that stuff really well, and then again, create a file to update your accounting system. Workers' comp, tracking that is very important. For some people, they have one policy or their employees stick with one classification. For other companies, it depends on what they're doing and potentially where they're working, and that all needs to funnel to the right bucket or classification in workers' comp. So we'll get into the workers' comp reporting as well. Same with union reporting, 401k, child support, we got you covered there as well. Now again, kind of mention this, I like to breeze through the PowerPoint and really get into kind of the online platforms we have available for you here. But rest assured, if you go with us, if you're on a traditional service and you're coming to us for some of that more complex tracking, reporting, compliance reporting, you're not going to lose the basics of what a payroll service does for you. Some other things that make us different, as I mentioned, we integrate with QuickBooks, other accounting systems. We only deal with construction here. So it's not like we have thousands of companies with this small construction division. We are construction. There's no division here. We are only handling payroll for construction companies, which makes the support of this much better than your traditional providers, because you're not going to get somebody on the phone who is supporting 30 traditional companies, but you're the one construction company that they got to try to figure out. So with us, and with anybody you go with, no matter how perfect you are on the end as a user, no matter how perfect the payroll platform they provide you with is, there are going to be mistakes. These are field employees, there's agencies, entities that you have to rely on, contractors, to pass you along accurate information in a timely fashion, and it just doesn't always happen. So we're here to help fix mistakes, corrections, all that. As far as getting time to us goes today, I'll kind of glance at the mobile app. To connect my phone, I can do that through Zoom, but not go to webinar. So you won't get to see the employee-facing side, but just know we have a multitude of products. We're going to stay focused on the payroll service today, but in knowing that, hey, you want a mobile application, we have options there that are geared towards nothing but construction. If you want HR or onboarding, or maybe not even full onboarding, but employee self-service where they can go see their pay stubs, make a change to their, address, their phone number, their bank account, stuff like that, products we've built ourselves with construction folks in mind so that they're easy to use, but they still can kind of keep things automated, get you away from paper or manual entry, knowing that we have products that were designed for your folks and your folks only. So how payroll's processed is you're going to log in online, get the time to us again. This says enter. Could be importing from a mobile app that you're using that you're happy with. It could be syncing time from one of our mobile apps into the system. You review, you submit, and that's why we say payroll's done for you all year as long as you're using us here at Payroll for Construction. I'll pop this up again at the end as I answer questions. That way, if people want to jot any of this stuff down, they can, and they can reach out to me, whether it's to schedule a more personalized demo, or even if you're just curious on pricing and cost, I can get you over a quote. We're very transparent with that stuff to make sure, even if this aligns, we want to make sure the cost does as well. Okay, so now where I'm going to is pretending we did step one, logged in online from any computer with internet. This, again, you don't see Payroll for Construction. You don't have to purchase or own the accounting system, but you're going to be using modules, as we call them, bits and pieces of the full accounting system to process your payroll. A little bit of cross-branding there and just not reinventing the wheel, just giving you the parts necessary to run payroll. So where I always start, even in my personalized demos, is payroll maintenance. There's no pretending. If you've been told by a service they can handle this stuff and you were let down, you won't be here because, again, we don't have to try to create something unique to you. We can build these tables out, whether it's union or non-union. Now, we never mislead anybody or oversell this. How these unions are in here and how these prevailing wage rates and tables are in here is clients sent them to me. So we don't have every single union or every single class and fringe and pay rate in here across the country, nor would you want that in your database because that would just be too much information for you to have to sift through to get the job done. So the cool part about this is, and why we're doing this webinar here today, is because this stuff does take time to come together. We have a great complete solution here, but it's not like we just need your employees' name, address, socials, and bank accounts to just get them paid. There's more to it than that. So you would be feeding us over any of this prevailing wage union stuff. These tables can then be attached to a job record so that as Bob or Susan go from a private to a public job, as they go from iron worker to electrician to labor, it'll automatically grab the rates and the fringes, whether you were entering it or whether that came via a mobile application. On the union side, similar, but electrical's electrical. I'm not going to have carpenters in my electrical union. These are really good, especially for union and prevailing wage, because two things. If I update this and I have 30 journeyman electrician, I've just updated all 30 in one fell swoop. Now, if you pay a couple people above scale, that's okay. For those union folks, they would have a rate in their record. My non-union will always have a private rate in their record. But again, if a prevailing wage table, if they hit a job, it'll change to the right rate and fringe. So these are good for updating the masses, controlling rates by job, and also effective dates. So in the union, these don't roll over a perfect, start of the week, end of the week. It's usually the first of a month. When that falls midweek, that can wreak havoc on payroll. With us, it doesn't. We could put the effective date in right now as April 1st. You continue about your payroll. It's not going to mess anything up. But that week, when you enter or push that time over via an app, if Monday and Tuesday are the 30th and 31st of March and Wednesday is April 1st, not going to make you stop, not going to cut two checks, going to be one consecutive payroll run just like it would be on other payrolls. But for visibility, it's key. It is going to timestamp that on your union, your certified reports, your employees' pay stubs. So we're not going to take shortcuts here in the office to help you out that jeopardize the visibility necessary for employees, contractors, agencies, unions. All that stuff will be very transparent still. The fringes, again, just depends. This is where I get more specific as we do one-on-one demos, meaning, hey, if I'm non-union, well, yeah, if you pay that to the employee in their paycheck, it's going to be taxable. If you look at me and say, well, Jim, I could have 10 electricians go to this job, but we, as we call it, reduce the fringe, meaning we already offer benefits, PTO, and we came up with a factor that could be different from Rick to Susan to Bob, where we can subtract or back out of that fringe. There is a spot for that in the employee's record. Again, just a service that was built for nothing but construction. If you put this into some type of plan, so it's non-taxable, similar to union, we can handle that as well. Whether it's one bucket or multiple buckets, there's no limits. Similar to, as I bounce over here to my union side, sure, they have a bunch of different plans. They dictate it, whether it comes from the employee or comes from you, deduction versus fringe. What it's called, again, we won't just put a generic list of terms in here. It needs to be custom to you. How they calculate hours worked versus paid. Hours worked means if that employee works 50 hours, even if 10 were overtime, it's simply 50 times $1. If I flip that switch to hours paid, now what I'm saying is, well, the union or the agency is telling us we have to, on that fringe or that deduction, pay time and a half on it. So 40 hours would go into the bucket, then 10 hours would be converted to 15 at the 1.5 calc of overtime. So now $55 would go into that bucket. So if you've ever been through a setup with a software or a service that you had to build all kinds of workarounds to kind of make this work for you, you just don't with us. We'll set them up to be taxed accordingly, in and out pay, non-tax, after, before. We'll build these for you. So I'm not showing you this to really worry you or how am I going to maintain this stuff. This stuff changes once, maybe twice a year. So basically, we can put all this in and then we can set the effective dates for you. Okay, workers' comp will set up. We do not pay workers' comp. We do not pay union. But they are a part of payroll. We want to provide reports for audit and payment purposes. And then also, we want to be able to, keep that as a part of your job costing since it is an expense to you. Now, employees can be entered in here. Or, again, as I had mentioned, we have an onboarding platform where I can go to new hires here. I can hit create an employee, fill out the basics of that employee, and then send an invite to that employee. Then that employee would fill out their stuff, fill out their I-9s, sign them, their W-4s. And then upon them doing all that, this employee's done. So this is now me as the HR person coming in and saying, okay, I need to come in here and sign their I-9, their work tax credit. I need to assign a pay rate or a department or division to them. So this is where, again, for time purposes today, just I can do certification management. I can share documents, request documents from employees. I can have employees sign off on documentation. So this would be like an electronic HR filing cabinet, or at the very least, an employee self-service portal. So technically, if you wanted to, you could have an employee come in here. It's letting them see their pay stubs. They could come in here and, make edits to pretending their address or their phone number. So this could be used, or some of my clients say, hey, Jim, we're not there. Our field staff is not going to use that. Employees information in here. We can upload all your employees to start, so you're not hand keying in any employees that are active with you currently. Okay, that brings us to the flow. The beginning is setup, training, testing. Takes, depending on company size, anywhere from 5 to 8 weeks, and then you're off and running. So as you get new jobs, you're simply putting in the jobs. Now, mine's going to look like you got to fill out a ton of stuff. Again, can't hide the fact that this is powered by our sister company, Foundation, but again, don't have to use Foundation. This is where you can put in a job name or number. If you're using QuickBooks, more than likely not using numbers, but we can tie the job costing, which somebody asked a question on, the QuickBooks integration. I'll get to that in just a couple of minutes here. But this is where I can map this to the job or this, depending on the accounting system. This is where, if I'm not working in multiple states, I don't need to worry about this. But if I am, and I'm sending employees from Illinois to Wisconsin, and they need to pay Wisconsin state tax when working on this job, this is where I can override this so I don't have to mess with this week in and week out. This is how I get my certified. The system is retroactive. So even if you put a job in and didn't check that box and ran 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months of payroll against it, you could modify the job, check the box, save it. All those certifieds would be there from day one, including no work performed. Now, this here can either say prevailing wage or union. If it's prevailing wage, that table that we built with the classes, rates, and fringes goes here. If I'm a union shop and I have employees coming from different unions, but I need to follow the operators 94 and the laborers 480, if our rates that we're coming from are higher, it can use theirs or ours. If their rates are higher and we need to use theirs, it will pick up their rates. The system will do all this comparing for you. Now, this is asking what benefits do we need to report to these unions. Most of the time, it's a swap out. If it's, hey, everything goes home except for a few things, we can map out the portability agreement right here on the job record. Now, for time, again, it can be entered many different ways. Also, this would be the WorkMax app. This would be one of our mobile apps. Now, this is not the employee-facing side. This is the side where you get to see, and you get to come in here and see facial recognition, no profile image, so we're getting a negative here, versus if we had that profile pick in there, we would get good one. Good GPS versus bad. So this is where I can have them collect notes. I can, see if anybody signed off on this, see the signatures in here, and then time record. If I need to edit this stuff, I can. So again, I like to talk how you're going to report time to us, unique to each company based on what they have going on, what they're looking for, but anywhere from entering it to mobile applications. And then you can still, no matter how you collect the time and get it to us, you can still review this stuff here. Somebody's asking, can we import from Builder Trend? As long as they can kick to Excel, text, CSV, sometimes with Builder Trend and some of the ones like the QuickBooks uses, if they're not using, so for example, Hopkins Airport's great. Craig Allen, great. Not saying they can't be on the file, but we're always pulling off of an up to, doesn't have to be 10, doesn't have to be 3, but up to 10-digit alphanumeric unique employee ID. We need that on the file. Date on file, unique job ID on file, and then regular overtime, or our system can break that out. So we can. It's just I like to prepare certain people, whereas if I know they're on, Builder Trend, usually more on the residential side, whereas if you're using like an HCSS or Exact Time, I know they already use the same type of coding that we do. So that's one I can just say, yep, that'll work as is. Sometimes when you get into somebody on QuickBooks Time or T-Sheets or Builder Trend, it's not that it can't import to us, but sometimes there's a little bit of changing on your end of adding employee IDs or job numbers so that that can import over to us. Okay. And they said that they're doing commercial, which is great. Yeah. So if they're using numbers, again, the name can be on there. We just ignore that, and then it'll grab the name in our system, but tied to employee ID and job ID. You can review this, even if I imported this in from, let's just use in this case, Builder Trend. Doesn't mean it's not editable. I could still drill into this and I can make edits there. So I can drill into this, change hours, times, jobs, whatever I need. As you can see here, as that time hit, it's picking up prevailing wage or non, pulling the private rate or the prevailing wage rate in. And everything in our system, the nice thing is, can be ran by employee or by job. So with 3 clicks of the mouse, this looks the same until now you can see I'm running hours by job. And I can run this for day, week, month, year. All of our reports can be ran for any different time frame in here. And everything can be printed, PDF, Word, Excel, or CSV. You can also look at the dollars before you submit too. And then you can see by employee what paychecks are going to look like. So being powered by an accounting system, we are still fully processing the payroll. Eventually, we're having client hit submit, and then we're giving them a bill. We're pulling the money to pay the employees and the taxes. We're doing the quarterlies and W-2s. But we know how important payroll is to the day-to-day in construction. So we don't remove you so far from it where the things that you used to be able to see while doing payroll in-house vanish, and you got to always call us or email us and wait on us to get you that information. You're still going to have all this at your fingertips. Now, again, if you're on a different accounting system, we can talk what that looks like. But QuickBooks is a one file size fits all, meaning if it's on the report, it goes back. If it's not, it does not go back via our export, QuickBooks Open Database Connector import. So from a GL standpoint, that all goes back. Whether you have 5 GL accounts or 50 pertaining to payroll, it doesn't matter. If you break office, field, shop out, that's okay. Mine's going to one account, but we just mimic your chart of accounts. Now on the job side, no employees, no hours. We're pushing back into the P&L. That is it. What you paid the employees, what you paid in FICA, FUTA, SUTA, union if you were union, workers' comp, and any other fringe benefits. So in short, you can get a P&L out of QuickBooks with all of your payroll, labor, and burden. However, we cannot push items. Somebody's asking about items. We cannot push items into QuickBooks. I've had some people say, here's a file I've created and I can get it back this way. If somebody has something, not saying that we haven't ever custom built something or had somebody say, well, I kind of can trick QuickBooks and push it in this way. But as far as our capabilities and going through the Open Database Connector, it would not go back by item, meaning you would rely on us and you would have to come into a report here. The minute you need the who, what, where, when, why, I'm not saying it vanishes, but it doesn't go to QuickBooks. So those items could be here, meaning it could have came over from Builder Trend, could have been by item. We don't drop or lose the item detail, but again, when I need to get to the employee and the item level, coming here in QuickBooks. Okay, a few other reports here. Workers' comp, again, even if that's controlled based on what they're doing, meaning those items, I can funnel what we call cost codes, QuickBooks calls items. I can have that tied to workers' compensation where they could technically flow into two different buckets in a given week. So this would show hours worked, gross, by class, earnings exposure. We'll come back to this. Some people call this the cap or the limit, rate, premium, and what you owe. Maybe it's just time to make a payment, so this report suffices. If it's audit time and there are discrepancies between earnings and exposure, that is where, whether there's caps per class, per employee, or per earn type, that's where we can break that information out for you. If you ever need EEO, minority compliance, monthly manning reporting, again, as you see me go into some of these reports here, it's not just one report. It just depends on where you're at in the country, what they're requiring you to use. So we keep up with programming and putting all this stuff in here. Employee earning statements, again, they could get them online. You could reprint one at any time. Certified payroll for my California people, the DIR, some people are using the online LCP tracker. So if what I'm saying right now doesn't make sense to you, it will in a second when I go to the paper version. So again, with certified payroll, that term anymore, if you just stop it, well, we can do certified payroll. That's not enough anymore, meaning, well, it depends. If you're in California and I give you a piece of paper, but you still got to go hand key it into a system, or if you're dealing with LCP tracker, well, that's still a lot of work for you. With us, a file gets created. You can upload that right to any of those online portals. But if you are still using paper, again, I won't click on every one of these, but if somebody after the fact has a state-specific or city-specific form that they want to make sure we can generate, just let me know. But if I run the federal one, this is where I can come in, and it's just going to fill out all the data. Dollars earned on this project versus what their paycheck was for this entire week. If I wasn't on a job, it'll do no work performed, and then it'll give me all those signature pages as well. So really either print, sign, send, or generate file, upload to website. And then another one I really like here is burden job summary. This was, again, in the beginning when I said, hey, we're not just capturing Rick makes $15 an hour when he's on private in my system. 40 times 15 is 600. When we add in everything else we pay, it not just gives me my total job cost, which again, QuickBooks is going to grab this. But this here is also going to let me know Rick's true to the penny hourly rate for at least private work. As he bounces over here, these are prevailing wage jobs in my system. That's why those rates aren't tying out to the 1841 up on that top line item. If I was union, I would have this column filled in with your portion of the union fringes. Okay, last but not least here, union summaries by job or just summary for the month, where I can come in here and run it for whatever date I need, and then per your company, the date range, the union. I got my employees, hours with totals, gross with totals, total into each benefit, and then a summary page for the check or checks I need to send to that union. Union's a little different, meaning I can't guarantee every union across the country will take this exact report the exact way it is with a check from you. Some of them require you to go to their portal and they don't have the ability to create a file. You got to key in the hours and maybe it does the math for you. So whether you need the hours, the actual benefit amounts, if I need to break out regular versus overtime, I can do all that stuff. So we at least have the data, the calculations are 100% correct. Okay, I'm opening it up for questions. So if anybody wants to type in some other questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Somebody else typed in another question asking if what the support looks like. So hours. So support is all done by us right here out of our Cleveland office. We're East Coast, so we're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on the East Coast, which is 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. On the Pacific or the California coast, Pacific time. So we're here to help. You don't always get one support rep. For some people, especially my folks coming from the traditional providers, hearing that makes them cringe because they're so used to every time they get somebody on the phone having to explain why and how their payroll works. Once you finally get customer support rep A to understand it, the minute they are gone, and they will be at some point, meaning, hey, people take vacations, people get sick, People do bad at their job and get let go. People do great at their job and they get promoted. So support in just about any company is entry level, that you either are going to eventually, you know, get promoted up to something else, or you're just not going to cut it. So with us, it's not just one person, but back to my PowerPoint, every single person here supports the same client. So you will not, again, not saying you won't have to explain something, but the level of explanation that other companies would require is not the same with us, just because this is the only type of payroll that we deal with. Okay. Somebody's asking about, what about a termination or layoff correction check. So even though we're your service, we give, because we're powered by an accounting system, every client has the ability to print a check right there at any time, because again, we know, especially with union, you terminate an employee, you can't look at him and say, well, we're using payroll for construction now and we won't have payroll again till this Friday or whatever. No, you got to pay those folks. Hey, if an employee's paycheck's wrong, some people can wait till next week. A lot of others will look at you and say, hey, even though it was my fault and I didn't report these hours to you for Friday, Saturday, if you want me at work next week, you need to get me that money so I can keep gas and food in the house and make it to work. So these are things that we, again, is only doing this for construction, understand much more so than your traditional providers. Somebody's asking on cost. Do me a favor. I'll have a couple questions for you, but after this, just shoot me an email to the jwelsh@payrollforconstruction.com. And then I can ask you a few questions, and then I make sure I send you an accurate quote, startup cost, everything, rather than just rattle off kind of the traditional pricing numbers, because that could leave you, if you get further down the road with me, well, hey, I didn't know about this. So I like to, again, we're very transparent on cost. So you email me, let me know your pay frequency, average employee count, and then if you'd be interested in like a mobile app or the HR piece, let me know that, and then I can put a nice quote together for you. And if you forget any of that, if you email me saying, Jim, can I get a cost breakdown from you? It's a nice Excel quote. I'll reiterate those questions to you. That way, again, we get the right info and I send you the right quote. Anybody else have any other questions for today? Again, I know super high level overview here. We can dig way deeper into this stuff. Just you guys let me know, and we can do more of a one-on-one demo or a questions and answer session. Anything you need, we're here to help. And if we're not a good fit for you, we know a lot of players in the game that we'd be happy to, maybe potentially make a recommendation to you for. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for your time today. I hope to hear from some of you soon, and everybody have a great rest of their week.